Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me once again this week, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on, Trevor?
What is going on? Weather is calmer today, so hopefully we won't get destroyed mid podcast like we did last week. I Your power went out while we were recording, and it went out basically like in tandem to a giant lightning strike.
Yep.
That I can look back at the video that I was recording, and I can be like, "Holy crap, that was close!" And then I look back, and you're frozen, and I'm like, "Well, yep, that." And then I got your text saying, "Yep, your power's out," because it was like a moment of, well, my power clearly didn't go out because everything's still on, but maybe my internet went down. But then I look, I'm like, no, everything looks good there. And then I got word from you that the monsoon last week knocked your power out. So that's why there was no episode last week, but should be back up and running fine for this week. Today we are going to be talking a little bit early kind of first impressions of Live Alive, impressions on Stray, a general kind of vibe of not really knowing what that next big game is going to be, and some of the kind of smaller mobile or other experiences that we're kind of jumping into to kind of tide us over until the next big game comes along. And then lastly, I have some thoughts on the Hot Wheels expansion of Forza Horizon 5. So that's going to be what today's episode is going to be all about. So check timestamps below if you are interested in any of those in particular. Other than that, a little bit of housekeeping before we hop into that. We have Friday Night Dying Light is continuing. We started to talk about this in last week's episode that never went live, but Cameron has finished the game at this point. Cameron has finished Dying Light 2. So we have like an end episode that will be coming down the line, but that's still probably a
Yep.
couple months away in terms of rollout. So go check out Friday Night Dying Light, still every Friday evening, 6 p.m. Pacific time, as Cameron continues plugging through that game. Whereabouts are you at in the game at this point, Cam? In terms of like episode 25, I think that just went out.
Yeah, episode 25 just came out. There are less than 10 episodes left.
Yeah.
So let me double check here, but I believe episode 34 is
Will be
last
the finale.
one. Yeah, I believe episode 34 is the last one we recorded. Yeah, it is. So episode 34 will be the finale. It's a little bit longer than the rest of them just because I did not want to piecemeal out like the final final portion of that game.
Yep.
And so I think it's close to an hour at least. But so not overly long, but we do get a couple of long boys in there because I kind of got caught up towards the end of the game. I have a lot of thoughts about it. I'm sure we'll get into that in 10 weeks or 9 weeks or whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can do a celebration. It's finally done. Spoiler cast chat about the game after the fact, because as has been alluded to, I finally just picked it up on a sale and played through it over the course of a couple days or a week or whatever, and it was like, well, I beat the game before Cam did. And you and I have talked a little bit offline about different choices that we made and stuff like that. So once our series is wrapped up, maybe we'll do a kind of full-blown spoiler cast thing, and chat about the game more there. Very cool. Other than that, if you like what you hear, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. So yeah, let's dive in first. Cam, you mentioned you hopped into the demo for Live Alive.
Mm-hmm.
And I also hopped into, I kind of skipped past the demo because I was like, it's a Square Enix game, it's the HD 2D, I'll probably enjoy it well enough, so I just purchased it and loaded it up. I've played an hour of one of the chapters, so we're probably maybe in comparable positioning in terms of how much time we've actually put into the game so far. But what are your thoughts, and kind of where did you jump into in the demo, and what are your thoughts on the game so far?
So I jumped into the far future, the spaceship one, where you play as Cube, the little spherical robot, with the backwards baseball cap and no arms. It's like imagine just like a chicken with like no wings, or and like or maybe no, like an egg with chicken legs popping out the bottom of it,
Mhm.
and then with the baseball cap on the back that's like swung backwards. Um, it is a charming game. I
Mhm.
will say that the pixel style art style is full on like 100% the Chrono Trigger like era of like style of hair pixel like artwork on that, as well as like a lot of the other stuff about it that just reminds me a lot of like a Chrono Trigger game. I've always thought like, man, I wish like why didn't they capitalize more on that kind of like high detailed pixel art
Mhm.
um that they developed for Chrono Trigger, and Live Alive is kind of like answering that question in ways
Mhm.
where it's like I
It's
see.
they just didn't release it over in the West.
Yeah, that's the problem, is that was the case. So Live Alive feels like a game that is, so I will be upfront, like there's like little to no combat in the first part of the game where I'm at right.
Mhm.
Um However, I was able to access an arcade machine program that let me use the battle system for Live Alive.
Oh, nice.
So I do have some experience with combat in that game, even though it was done in like an arcade like fashion.
Mhm.
It's very cool. It's very cool. I liked what I felt, what I played with it. And the characters and story, even though it's a bit little like on the nose as far as like your typical like we're in space kind of story. It's intriguing enough to keep going, and the demo cuts off at a point that makes it very interesting, to say the least. So
Mhm.
I'm definitely interested in finding out more about that. I was about to start the Edo, the Twilight of Edo, part of the like the part of the demo, but I decided to put it down instead and tried to do something else. Not because I was bored of the game, but because I felt like, man, I really am not ready to hop into another person's story after like a cliffhanger. So,
Mhm.
um, it's good. It's good. It's well designed. I like the art style. I like the writing is really good. The kind of like voice, like the voice dialogue options, were really nice. Good, like solid voice acting for what I was hearing. Um, it's interesting. I'm liking what I'm hearing. I'm liking what I'm playing, and I'm really curious to see more of like kind of like I want to check out the other demo paths as well.
Mhm.
Um, like we'll see what happens with that. But I'm excited to keep playing that game. It looks like it's something very special, but it's also not necessarily a game that I'd be like, yeah, everybody should be playing this game.
Mhm.
This is definitely for old school SNES JRPG fans for
Yeah.
sure. This is the bread and butter for that crew. Which like it just so happens we know a handful of those people.
Mhm.
And so we know that this game is getting, is probably going to make it to top 10 in some people's lists. But I wouldn't anticipate saying Live Alive is a game that everybody should play. Go out there, grab it, because this is going to be a game like there's no run option. You move just as fast as you're moving.
Mhm.
There's no like I hold down B and I run faster. There's none of that. This is the old school style of play with it, and this is not like a remake of Live Alive. It is just an up like it's just a kind of redone up, touched up version of it,
Mhm.
and which is cool. Like that's what we want, but that is not going to be for everybody.
Yeah.
I can already like say out like especially with kind of like the slow start I felt with Cube storyline. I can definitely tell that this is a like it was a deliberate slow burn to accentuate or to punctuate the shock factor of the cliffhanger that I got, and what I assumed to be kind of like the ramping up of action and speed and stuff that occurred during after that point that happens. I'm getting vague and I apologize, but I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. No, that's fair.
Um, but I see a lot of setup for things that will go wrong in the future that like you're gonna have to be responsible about like fixing or taking care of.
Mhm.
Overall, very, very cool. Very, very cool. I like the approach of the storytelling because it's not a. This is not a JRPG storytelling.
Yeah.
They are exploring different. Like you can already tell, they are exploring different genres, and they are taking those genres very seriously. They are not JRPGifying genres and then like making those adaptable to like what you would expect out of a JRPG, especially from the SNES era.
Mhm.
Um, It like I am playing like none of the people, none of the like I'm playing a little robot guy, but none of the other characters are like, you know, teenagers who are in space and doing that. It's like these are full grown adults with actual personalities and problems that they have. Particularly like two of the characters like have a beef between each other. And it's like there's a lot going on there and it's interesting. I want to find out more.
Yeah.
Um,
It's
yeah.
it's very interesting hearing you talk about that because I know very little about the game apart from like it's an anthology of stories. So it is like you basically like the story I hopped into. I kind of looked at the chapter wheel that you get kind of when you load up the game. It's like pick whichever chapter you want to do first. You just kind of get thrown into it. There's no like here's a general tutorial or anything. It is just like pick your chapter. And I was like, oh, maybe I'll do this like chronologically. So I started with prehistory. And so a lot of the elements that you're talking about, it's very interesting because in the prehistory story, there is no dialogue. This is a pre-language era of things. So the voice acting that I get is grunts. It's you play as a young boy caveman pogo in a like in a tribe of cavemen, and you have like a basically primate like companion who in the combat the combat is tactics turn-based tactics effectively. The closest analog that I can think of like in recent years is probably like South Park, the Fractured But Whole, where it's grid-based turn-based combat kind of stuff, and it's
Mhm.
in a little bit in the vein of a Final Fantasy Tactics or Triangle Strategy or something like that, but on a much like smaller scale of a space. Like it's maybe 7 by 7 grid is your battle space or whatever. um and the first spell that Gory, I believe is the character's name, who's your ape companion buddy, is basically poop throw. And it is a an area of effect poison attack kind of thing. um and it's like you throw the poop and it hits your target, as well as like in all of the surrounding spaces that ground is just
Woo!
poisonified, and if you are stuck in that ground at the end of your turn or whatever, you're going to take some more damage. um and so yeah, mine much later on the story, but it's also incredibly interesting in how they tell the story in a like non-language society. It's characters grunt, and there are big, overt animations of characters pointing the way that you need to go, or a speech bubble will come up and it'll have like an image of like a character or something like that, as like this is who you need to talk to, or this is what you need to do, and it's basically just kind of giving you like the vaguest of hints to guide you in that regard. Um, there were many times where I was appreciative. One of the elements is like this radar system where it's just like you have a mini map, and the mini map tells you like where your objective is, so you can kind of like go in the direction of your objective, or you can go into like the unexplored or the other rooms or whatever you want to do if you want to search around for items and stuff like that. There's also and admittedly I didn't get to play around with it too much, and I don't know if it'll like come back up just based on the trajectory of the thing, but like in this particular chapter, you're finding items like sticks and hard rocks and pelts and items like that, and you get introduced to a mechanic where basically you can combine and mix and match items to create tools. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to create a stick and a hard rock, and I created a stone axe that Pogo was able to use. It was a stronger weapon than a stick, or like he had a beast horn and a pelt, and I think that created like a beast cap or something like that that was basically like better armor and stuff. um
That's
so
awesome.
there's cool little ideas and stuff like that, and I think that is the potential and the fun of this, is that like each of these stories is probably going to have different elements that are just going to be like, hey, that's a thing that was only in that one chapter, and now you're in the Wild West, or now you're in the the far future or something like that.
I'm really excited to get into some of these like other stories. I'm not gonna lie, like this is definitely like this has the potential to be scratching an itch for me that I shouldn't say that. This has the potential to be like a really fun game that I want to visit on.
Mhm.
And like we'll talk later about like what I'm referring to about scratching an itch, because like that's part of our conversation that we're going to be having tonight. But like I can tell that there's a lot of possibility with this game that makes me very excited.
Mhm.
And I literally finished playing Cube Story, like the demo part of Cube Story, and I was like, oh, here we go, it's about to get going, let's go. And then it's like, nope, that's the end of this demo chapter. It's like,
Mhm.
ah.
Yeah. It's
So
I'm curious because I've done very little like in terms of research in it to understand like how basically how long each chapter is. But I do appreciate that like it is hey, if you are just looking for a more bite-sized experience, you don't have to play through the entire game. You can just do like one chapter or one character story. You can also, in the full version of the game, you can basically like go into the start menu and basically load back out to the main page and change chapters at any time. You want to make sure that you like save your game so that you don't like lose all that progress or anything like that. But so yeah, if I when I go back to the game, if I'm like, I want to take a break from the prehistoric story and Pogo story and stuff, and explore something else, I can basically do that if I want to. So yeah, I like that it is weirdly like obviously the first game that we really got with this kind of HD 2D art style was Octopath Traveler,
mhm.
and one of my admittedly like criticisms of Octopath Traveler was while I thought it was cool that you could basically like play any of those characters' story in any order, I didn't like that like they didn't really intertwine because of that. It was very much a like, well, because we've given you the flexibility to do this, their stories aren't really going to overlap all that much or in any kind of like significantly meaningful way. And so there's not going to be a specific through line that you're going to do because you might like their characters, you might just never explore their paths. And it's interesting because this is very much like in that same vein, but with the the understanding, like I know that all of these characters' stories are existing in their own time periods. I have no expectation that Pogo is going to
Mhm.
suddenly, meet up with Cube in some kind of like end game chapter or something that I'm unaware of. If it
Yeah.
does, cool. That's like that'll be an
Yeah.
exciting surprise, I guess. But it's very much I'm going into this expecting I'm going to get 7 or 8 little games.
Mhm.
That are kind of all unified by this combat mechanic and yeah, that turn-based kind of strategy combat that the game has. So yeah, it's interesting. I look forward to hopping into more. But yeah, right now I'm just kind of like bouncing between a handful of things. But yeah, that's definitely one that it's the first time I booted up my Switch since probably Triangle Strategy earlier in the year. So I had to like dig out my controller and find where it was and get it, start charging it up again and stuff like that. But yeah, I look forward to hopping into and exploring more of it myself. Have you Are you going to check out more of the demos? Do you think before deciding whether or not you want to commit to the full product?
No, I think at this point, like one of the reasons I stopped popped off of the Edo one is I was like, I know that the demo saves like carry over to the main game.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the features that they introduced. They're like play the demo and then like your save moves over. And so I kind of want to like start up the main game and bring my save over and then do that. So I think that's probably what I'll end up doing. Because it was a big turnoff. I do not want to like I'm getting to like a good part of Cube story. I don't want to like just like pop off and go somewhere else yet. Like I'm fine. I'm invested.
Yeah.
I want to know what's happening with Kirk and Huey and Kato and what's going on with the captain. Like what's going on with this like also this corporal who like beat the shit out of Cube for like and just was like an asshole and like nobody did anything. Like what's going on here? Like
Mm-hmm.
there's mysteries to this I want to find out and like I don't want to hop into somebody else's story just yet.
Yeah.
Cube is also like super freaking adorable because he does the in Chrono Trigger when some small like some character like small animal characters would do like the quick turn thing and then like pause and pose.
Mm-hmm.
He
Yeah.
does that all the
Yeah.
time, and it's super freaking adorable, and like
There,
I love it.
there's a it's fascinating because you're rattling off the names of characters. The only names of characters I know in my section are like the party members that you get, because obviously nobody else has names that are. Or I guess if I paid attention in combat, I would probably have caught somebody's
Hmm.
name. But like for me, it's those three. Like it's Pogo, it's Gory, who's the ape thing. Cave Girl comes in. Her name is Baru, which I only remember because I saw it and I was like, oh, it's like Aunt Baru. Okay.
Nice.
Um, and so she basically like she's on the run, like makes her way into your tribe, and you basically have to like hide and protect her. And then like the people who are after her from some opposing tribe show up, and they show up in stone cars. Um,
What?
they're kind of introduced even before your character is. Like you see kind of the like escape scene of Baru, of her like breaking out of some kind of like cave and then like fleeing, and then you see this like basically the big bad so far at least, who comes out, big long or big burly caveman, who his iconic and defining trait in the animation that you're kind of alluding to is like he stands there and makes a pose and then like does a big hair flip, and like it has like a
Oh
little
my
sparkle
gosh,
to
that's
it kind of thing.
awesome. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And
And
wait a minute, are you saying you're fighting caveman greasers?
yeah, pretty much. Well, I mean, like, they're not greasers in like any kind of like style or anything like that. They are like caveman, in the way of like shaggy, crazy, like you can barely see any kind of like facial skin, but they have cars that are just made out of stone that like just come out of a cave at one point. They have like five, and basically like
Are they pulled by anything, or are they just
nope,
like no? They're just like straight up
they're
cars.
just driving in stone cars.
Oh, they're doing. I know what they're doing. They're doing the Flintstones
Potentially
method.
the
The
Flintstones thing,
running.
but yeah, we
Yeah,
don't like you
gotcha.
can't see the bottom of it to see feet moving or anything like that. It's just like, oh, that's weird. But yeah, they come basically like barging into your tribe, um after like you've gone through, you've done like a day or two of going out to your little hunting grounds area and like getting food for the tribe that's kind of teaching you the basics of the combat system. Then
Hmm.
they show up looking for the girl that you've helped, and are immediately like infatuated with, and he also like Pogo also has all those kind of like classic 16-bit era animations of like big old heart eyes, or big thought bubble that's just a heart, and he's doing whatever he can to get kisses from Baru.
Oh
um
my gosh,
and
yes, this
and when
sounds
he does,
awesome.
like he turns all red and like does a big old like blushing kind of animation stuff. It's very expressive because, in part because, there is no like actual language to kind of help bridge that gap. But yeah, you said, you kind of kicked off your description of like it is filled with charm, and yeah, absolutely, I echo
Yeah.
that sentiment. So I did that section. Hair flip guy comes in with his goons, and it's basically like a boss fight effectively. And then the elder of your tribe basically like kicks you out for harboring this woman that has brought like an invading tribe in. And so I've basically just been kicked out of the like home tribe into a
Hmm.
more like open area space. And that's where I'm gonna see where the game goes from there. Like I
So
imagine
it's
if this yeah,
Gory, and Brew. Then you guys are just on your own.
yeah, yep,
Very cool.
yeah. And so yeah, I imagine like if it had a similar kind of like here's where the chapter cut off for the demo is, like it'd probably be right about where I'm at or something like that. Maybe, I don't know. Because that's,
It
I
sounds about
think
right.
that
Yeah.
was probably like the first hour ish of the game.
Probably it might have been. It might cut you off earlier than that.
Okay.
But like, oh
Maybe
well,
like right
let me
before the
rephrase
boss
it.
fight.
Well, let me rephrase it because like actually, Pogo's not like the caveman story isn't one of the ones available.
Yeah,
The demo.
right.
The demo is ancient China, Twilight of Edo, and space like in like the far future.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I look forward to seeing more of Pogo's story, and yeah, that because yeah, my characters are leveled up. Like one of Pogo's like default attacks is basically like, or it might have been the first one he learned, and then the first one that Gory learned was the poop throw. Because I think his first attack was basically like stinky butt or something like that, and it's basically like a fart attack that does damage, because the one of the mechanics in this is the prehistoric tribe is like, they're all built around a sense of smell. So like you have an action button that is basically like you take a sniff, and you can and basically like the environment will like give you like puffs of clouds that are like, okay, that's where either enemies are or items are, or when you're trying to like find and track down Baru when she's like hidden in there, like you basically like smell flowers or something, and that's how you know what direction she's in. um so yeah, it's interesting, just like weird little mechanical things there. But I look forward to seeing just how elements like that change, going from there to ancient China, or to the Wild West, or to Edo Japan, or the far future, and all those different areas of the game. So yeah, that's some Live Alive there. Any final thoughts before we move on there, Cam?
No, just like, yeah, I think we kind of covered what we wanted to say about it
Hmm.
so far. Like, this is, of course, we have both had very cursory introduction moments with this game,
Yeah.
and I think we're both excited to see kind of like where this game ends up going.
Yeah.
So
Especially just hearing, even just from you, like your cursory introduction in a completely different chapter is fascinating to me, and I'm eager. Like the fact that you were like, yeah, you found out the combat from an arcade game simulation. Effectively, it's like that's a fun way to introduce that
if and
combat
it's totally
in
optional. By the way,
the
it's
yeah.
100% optional. You don't even have to do it.
Nice.
It's completely optional. And I like was like, yeah, I'll try it out. And it's like, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is how you get in, like, because it gives you like a super powered singular character
Hmm.
to fight against, like, bogus NPCs, like just like little enemies that pop up and generate in the arcade game. And it introduces like how some abilities, like, it's not always going to be like across, like, or like not everything's going to stay on a single line on the grid. There's some abilities that are going to be off
Yeah.
center from you.
Yeah.
And you have to move around in how to do that. And then there's also environmental stuff that introduces you to. Like, it's really, really cool.
Yeah.
Combat wise, combat system, I think this is actually like a very interesting combat system that it's a shame that we don't get as much of that today.
Hmm.
Uh I say that, but like the case is, like, I think the last game that I played that you mentioned was like South Park: The Fractured Butthole. The fact that South Park: The Fractured Butthole is, in a way, combat wise, a spiritual successor to the Square Enix game Live Alive that was never produced in America, never brought to America.
Hmm.
It's interesting. It's interesting to think
Yep.
about game anthology that way.
Yep, indeed. All right. We will move on then over to one of my other topics for today. I have sat down with and played through the entirety of Stray at this point. New Annapurna game that is available to PlayStation Plus people, or it's out there available on PlayStation for, I think, $30. This is the one where you play as a cat, and you are kind of adventuring through a cyberpunk-esque kind of world filled with robots. And kind of you like part of the like uncovering of the story and everything is like, why is it only robots? Why are there no humans around? What happened to the humans in this world? And it's very much like a post-apocalyptic thing where effectively like the enemies, so to speak, in the game are basically like bacteria that got out of hand, and have just kind of like overgrown and kind of just ruined ecosystems and populations, and so people kind of live in, or the robots at least live in like very isolated areas, where they can basically be closed off from everything else in the world. And you are a cat that just happens to fall into this world as you're going about. I will say I'm like, I know there's been a lot of like high praise on this game. I'm more middling on it myself. I think, I mean, it's very much like the most realistic cat simulator that there is. I joked about it, having done it in the demo as well as just throughout the rest of my playthrough. Like, there was a lot of like just oddly satisfying humor and enjoyment taken from jumping up on a platform and just like walking into vases and just letting them like fall off little windowsills and stuff like that and just crack below. Or there's a couple of different places where like you'll deliberately do an animation where you like pat something off of a thing to either break something or move something below or something like that. Um, uh, and yeah, but yeah, it's a pretty basic platformer puzzler, I guess. There basically just elements where it's like, okay, you're gonna go around this area and try and find a couple things, and then you're gonna take it to a person, and that's gonna lead you to the next part of the adventure, the next chapter of the story. There are some collectibles and stuff that you can kind of find and look for around the area. Um, and if it was just those, I'd actually probably be higher on the game. But the areas where it is like not combat specifically, because it's not like you're out there like batting away these bacteria things, but it's very much like you go through what are effectively like chase sections where you're trying to avoid getting hit from just an endless barrage of these enemies like launching themselves at you. And if they get onto you, you just tap a button and they basically get flung off. But you get slowed down and more enemies can jump onto you, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed if that happens. And I just didn't like those areas of the game. Um, because I felt like in many ways they're just like, well, there's nothing I can really do to avoid this stuff. I can try and like dart around and dodge some of these things, but they sometimes they'll just pop out from behind a corner or something that you just wouldn't know was there, and it's like it was just those were the areas of the game where I was like, this is frustrating. I enjoy being like a calm, chill cat in in amongst the robots and learning about the fall of society or whatever has happened here. And when I had to jump into those more like intense or combat centric areas, I was like, yeah, this isn't as much fun for me. There's one like late in the game that instead of being a chase is more about like kind of stealth, and it's like there are sentinel robots or something that are kind of like moving on certain paths, and you're just trying to stay out of their cones and avoid them and stuff like that. Standard stealth fare. And that element was fine. But yeah, some of the just more the like, okay, you're gonna go through an area and you have no real like defense mechanism. You just have to try and like avoid stuff while doing platforming puzzles or doing other things. Like that's not as fun for me. Like I think it's currently somewhere in the top 10 for me for the year. I think it not like just the novelty and the enjoyment of being a cat, and the story's also pretty interesting, and it's got like a little smattering of interesting characters to go along with it, that were fun and enjoyable. But I don't know if it's like it's probably near like the bottom of my top 10 list at this point, so it'll probably get knocked out pretty easily. But it was a fun enough time, especially for like and I probably put like 6-7 hours into it or something like that. There's like a trophy for like speed running it in two, so you can like if you know the exact path and just kind of the direction you need to do, you can get through the game really quickly. But playing it in a more leisurely sense, I enjoyed it fine. Um, it's not. I don't imagine it's something I'll think of too much, down the line. If they do a Stray 2 down the line, I'd be open to it in the hopes that it does the things that lots of sequels do, where they advance on ideas and elements of the game. There's also it almost feels like it's very front loaded, and you get like you basically spend a good chunk of the first half of the game in like one location with like little kind of like you go off somewhere and then you come back to that central hub and then you go off somewhere else. And then you get like two more locations like later in the game that feel like they probably had much more in the way of ideas for those locations, but then development time started getting crunched, and so they probably started cutting things out, but they still needed to like get you to those places. So it was weird. It's a weirdly paced game in that regard, I guess. But it's fun going around being a cat. You got a meow button. You can jump up on things. You can scratch things in pretty much a lot of areas of the game, be it rugs, or you can like nuzzle up against different robots and stuff like that. And many of these things there are like trophies connected to if you do those things enough times. um yeah, it's like it's a fine game. But I don't know that I'm gonna like. Yeah, it's one that like will probably be in a top 20 list for me at the end of the year, but I don't think it'll last in the top 10, depending on what else hits in the coming months. Is this one that you've looked at all, Cam, in terms of checking out or anything?
I'm gonna put this in the nicest way possible.
You don't care. You're not a cat
This
guy.
there is not a single iota of interest for me for this game.
Yep.
Um, I thought about saying like something a lot more crude, but I was like, actually, I know a lot of people are hot on this game. A lot of people liked it, and that's fine. I just I can't. I've watched multiple people talk about this game. I can't understand what about this game other than like you get to be a cat. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
and and it's about atmosphere and vibes, and I get that, but like I just don't vibe with that, man. I don't. I'm not interested in people. Like I saw people talking about the world and like theorizing stuff about the world that's in that game, and it's like, well, okay, then wouldn't it have been cooler to play a game where like you play maybe as one of those robots, or you play as like being a cat in an interesting world doesn't make it an interesting game for me.
Hmm.
And also, I don't care that there's a meow button. I
Yeah.
don't care.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: if there are cats in a game and like, can I pet the cat? Great. Here's the thing: I can't pet cats in real life.
Yeah.
I am horribly allergic to cats. Literally, a cat brushing up against me will leave me with like starting to develop hives.
Hmm.
I am grossly allergic to cats from there's a enzyme that cats produce in their mouth to help them clean themselves. And so because cats lick themselves to clean themselves, I will so it's like it's not even like, oh, I could get a hypoallergenic cat. No, no cats. I can't deal with cats. So I like the idea of petting a cat or having a cat in a game. That sounds cool to me. I dig that. But the idea of actually like being a cat, like that's never been an I know some people are like, I've always wondered what it's like to be a cat. I haven't.
Yeah. I
Like
don't.
that's
I
that's
don't
never
think.
been
Yeah.
anything for me.
I definitely don't fall in that like. Oh, I've always wondered what this was like. It was just one of those like. Oh, they did a really good job of giving you the experience of being a cat. Like a fun enough novelty, and it is like the thing that sets this game apart from an otherwise more or less bland, action adventure puzzle platformer kind of game. Um, so like that's an interesting element to it. But yeah, admittedly probably the most interesting element to it is really good cat animations. Good job, team. But
And
the
yeah, and
the
another thing is I don't want
gameplay
to. Yeah,
rest of it is a little was a little lacking for me.
I understand. I don't want to like crap on this game for the people who made it. Like they worked really hard on it. It came out. It's gotten a lot of praise. Good for them. People who like this game, good for you. I don't want to take anything away from that. But this game was never going to be for me. And from what I've seen, what I've observed, it's not. It doesn't have anything for me. And know what?
Hmm.
That's fine. As a white dude in my 30s, some games just like aren't gonna be my vibe, not gonna be my thing, and I think that's cool.
Hmm.
I think the fact that there's a game out there for people who want to know what it's like to be a cat, or like I want to play a game where I'm a cat in a cyberpunk world. I want that. You guys got that. Congratulations. I'm happy for you, but like you you I have not seen there's no iota of like there's not even like the smallest possible particle of interest for me to be concerned like considering ever like even taking a second look at this game.
Yeah,
Like I'm sorry.
that's good. That's fair. Well then, yeah, we don't need to spend any more time on that. So let's jump back over to you, Cam, to maybe talk about that vibe a little bit about like just not finding a thing that's working for you or anything right now. Because you mentioned before we started recording that you've been hopping into just kind of a bunch of smaller like mobile experiences and stuff like that before you really dive into maybe that next big game for you will be Live Alive. But until you get to that point, what's the vibe going on with some of these smaller things like Puzzle Quest and stuff?
Yeah, so like I've been playing a lot of Puzzle Quest 3. Kind of funny doing another Puzzle Quest stream totally got me back into that game. Like it's a fun matching like gem matching game that also has like a somewhat interesting story about like the like humans fight like humans fighting dragons and stuff because of like a prophecy and whatnot. Like it's interesting. It's got some stuff going on. I'm in a chapter right now where I'm fighting some liches and necromancers and stuff. It's cool. It's got the vibe. It's got the cool thing that I'm digging, but at the same time, also it's not like I'm craving to play that game. I play it when I actually play it on PC most of the time, just because like I just kind of want to like do something while I'm also watching something, and
Mm,
that's the perfect kind of vibe.
okay.
On the flip side, I love Gundam. I love I love mecha. I love mobile suits. The whole kind of like shtick with that. And I've been kind of craving something lately, and I haven't been craving anything in like the strategy variety. And so most of my go tos for that are kind of like cut off. And then I was like, I just stumbled into some Gundam stuff was coming out during Comic-Con, and which is, not abnormal. Bandai usually goes there and does a panel or two. And one of the things that came out was like the first episode of like one of the new shows that's coming out. And I kind of stumbled into what I thought was like a new show thing. Turns out it's actually a show that came out at the end of last year. A series of I think it was 6 or 7 episodes that are each about like less than 10 minutes long of like a like anime style adaptation of kind of like what the Gundam Breakers mobile game was about. And has like characters from that I was like, oh, I know those characters. I know these like, oh, that's Gundam Helios. That's cool. Like I'm kind of into this. I'm liking what I'm seeing here, and it kind of like sparked my imagination. So like tonight, I like completely like did the like epic long update that I needed to do because I hadn't booted up the game in forever. And like I've kind of just like walked back into that game and am going through that game and its story. And because it's a mobile game, they release story chapters.
Mhm.
And so it's like I'm actually like way behind on the story. Because it goes past the part where I thought it was, like I thought it ended, and it's like, oh no, it goes past that now. Cool. So like I'm invested in like putting more time into this game. And it's like a perfect lunch break type game to be doing on my lunch, and I'm into that idea.
Yeah.
Uh so I'm kind of feeling like these shorter bite-sized vibes of games right now.
Mhm.
As I'm like waiting for something to I think a big thing about it is also like I'm taking care of some financial stuff, like obligations that I have to do before I make, some like I make some like life transitions later this year.
Mhm.
And so doing that means like I'm being much more cognizant about like saving money
Yeah.
and taking care of things that way. And so I'm not making some of these like, oh, this game it's no longer $60, it's $40. Like Strangers of Paradise I want to get. But at the same time it's like I'm not going to spend $40 for that game right now.
Mhm.
Just also because like I don't know if I have like the time really to like get through like 30-40 hours of Strangers of
Of
Paradise. Like I
fighting
want to do it.
chaos. Yeah.
Of fighting chaos. Like I want to do it. It sounds amazing, and I have no doubt that I'd really enjoy the game, but it's just not something that like part of also this transition is kind of like putting the right focus on things.
Mhm.
This weekend, my original plan was actually to start like working on some stuff that um, I had to put off because my brother-in-law's birthday was this weekend, and so he asked me if I would. Uh, he asked me if I'd be interested in spending time playing board games and stuff with his friends that came over, and I was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's your birthday. I want to celebrate it with you. Let's do that." And then it was also like my niece's birthday this weekend. So like it's been a whole thing
Yeah.
for this weekend, so like that kind of got put off. But like we're coming up to the end of July, and like there's stuff going on, man. Like
Y
stuff is happening this year, and including like I have some stuff that's kind of in the like I'm kind of gestating and thinking about like as far as like future content for the channel goes.
Mhm.
Like it's stuff like you and I have ruminated on before, but like I'm putting a little bit now that I've finished the recordings of all the Friday Night Dying Lights. All I have to do is like some slight edits on every episode, and then that thing's just like ready to roll out
Mhm.
till the end for 9 weeks, and then it's like, well, what's next? Like we accomplished something really awesome this year, which is we did multiple new series that were exclusive to YouTube.
Yep.
Kind of like, so if you guys have just been over listening to our podcast, go to our YouTube channel, that nerdy site or sorry, youtube.com/, that nerdy site. Because we have just a slew of content out there that is just YouTube only. And that was kind of like our prerogative this year. And our priority is improving kind of like our YouTube quality and like what we were putting out there. And so like I'm really happy with what we've done and accomplished so far this year, as far as just the production ones, getting stuff out. and putting out there for people to enjoy. And so I'm looking at that and thinking, okay, well that project's done. You know, Friday Night Dying Light is almost pretty much done. So what do we have? Like, what do we do going forward? Like, what's the next? What's the next focus? What's the next project? And I think that's something that I think people are going to be really interested and surprised in.
Yeah, I mean, we
Come,
like our 3-year anniversary is November 1st, so we got that right around the corner, basically, and like, yeah, is there going to be new stuff to come along with that? We'll see. Potentially, we got still a few months to figure some of that stuff out. Yeah, it's very interesting because I'm largely in the same boat for some of those elements and stuff. And we this is something we started to talk about last week, or for last week's show, that obviously got cut short due to weather. But I'm in a similar boat in that, like, prior to now buying Live Alive, the last new game I'd bought was Dying Light 2, was, a month and a half ago or whatever, whenever I kind of like plowed through those games. And then the rest of my time has been just kind of jumping between PlayStation Plus games or Xbox Game Pass games. And
mhm.
so, in the same way that you're talking about like Puzzle Quest 3, I put a bunch of time into Power Wash Simulator in the last couple weeks. And it's like, there's not really like extensive, like, oh, here's all the different mechanics of that game. You are washing an increasingly dirty, supply of things with a power washer. And you can get some little additions and stuff like that. But it is such a great, just kind of like zen and relaxing game to play while I am being crazy enough and inspired by Dimension 20 and then Exandria Unlimited Calamity to now go and check out some of the like Critical Role Campaign 1 Vox Machina stuff. And also because I watched the Legend of Vox Machina Amazon Prime show earlier in the year. So like I'm letting those games kind of play while I'm doing other things, or while I'm cleaning the house, or while I'm putting things in and making some moves, and putting things in, packing stuff up and stuff like that. So it is like, sometimes those kinds of experiences are, hey, like, I'm not having to like pay an additional thing for this, just so that I already have kind of the Game Pass
Mhm.
going or whatever. Same with Stray this last week. It was like, okay, I'll check this out. It's a small enough experience, and I'm not like, I'm only in it for my time. I'm not losing any money. I didn't pay for it, so like I could have bounced off of it when I did get like, I got frustrated at the point where I was like, I'm not going to go for the platinum on this game, but I'll stick it out and see like the finish of this game, and just so I can weigh in on the story, or be in that conversation and stuff like that. But yeah, hopping into like Power Wash Simulator, Escape Academy. I mean, a lot of these things also like are great because they're I'm not having to pay money to do the Let's Plays that we do also on YouTube on Tuesdays and Thursdays and
Mhm.
stuff. So, um, but there are a couple that like I'm interested and excited to get back to, because they are like small enough experiences that I know I'm not going to have to commit 90 hours into to like get the full satisfaction and enjoyment out of, because on in terms of like my time, that's what I'm throwing eyes towards Vox Machina Critical Role stuff on. Like, that's what's going to suck up my time. So
Mhm.
where I can just kind of like enjoy smaller bite-sized gaming experiences or something like that, or it just until the next longer form thing does come along that I want to hop into. I mean, the fact that I still hop into basically daily games of Fortnite just to kind of knock out daily challenges and stuff like that is a pretty routine thing. I don't really ever talk about it, but I basically play 3 or 4 games of Risk on my phone before I go to bed every night. Just kind of like me against computer players, as just kind of like that's how I wind down my days. Um,
I haven't been
uh,
talking about it, but I've also kind of something I've also been doing is playing Pokemon Unite.
yeah, there
I
you go.
got back into that, and like I'm absolutely just like wrecking shop as Gengar again, and it's like this is good stuff.
Yeah,
It's like it's still like, and it's like there's anything I'm going to talk about that game. Nothing's new about that game other than like the seasonal content that they put out, new outfits and new Pokemon. But like I don't play those new Pokemon. I don't try out anything else. I go in to play as Gengar and
Mhm.
like absolutely wreck shop on his fools. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
I know my build is not the most optimal build for his abilities. I don't care. I'm playing it the way I want to play it, and I'm having fun doing it, and that's
Yeah.
what it's all about. But like I'm that same way. It's like I think we're both at this point where it's like we have a lot on the horizon, and so if we're gonna be gaming, it's just a matter of like these like we're also like we're in a bit of a lull where there's no strong AAA title. Like they say God of War Ragnarok's at the end of the year. They
Yeah.
say.
We'll see.
We'll see. I
It's
think, and here's the thing. I think I've gotten a lot of heat from like some people being like, "Cam, there's no way." Like Sony Santa Maria. It's like that's fine. I'll believe it when I see it because I cannot fathom that game is ready yet.
that's fair.
Like, and it could be ready, and I could be wrong, and I'll lose those points in the prediction from the beginning of this year, and that's fine.
Mhm.
Because I believe
I
one of my predictions
yeah.
was God of War Ragnarok will not come out this year.
Yeah,
So
probably. I'm very much in the same boat in that like AAA or indie or something like that. There just hasn't been a ton of stuff that's really come out this summer, the last few months, that has really kind of like drawn me in or pulled me in or anything like that. And it was largely the same last year. I think part of this is just kind of in the pandemic era is bigger game releases or the game releases that I really am drawn to are just kind of more spread out. And last year, like around this time is when I jumped into Final Fantasy 14 and spent the next 6 months basically playing through 10 years of content in that game in five
yeah,
6 months. And it's still like even that like I haven't gone back now that they've started doing the patch content for Final Fantasy 14, but that's something that like I know is available to me on the horizon when I do want to hop into that and revisit that game and check it out.
funny enough,
um
I don't know if I told you this, but I literally recorded an entire Let's Play series, like 10 episode Let's Play series of that late, like of the last patch content,
mhm.
and I just have it sitting there, and I thought to myself, eh,
Yeah.
like, I'm already putting out a regular series. I don't feel like I'm like I could do this to take some stuff off Trevor's plate, and it's like, eh,
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, there have definitely been like let's plays I've recorded, and I get like 30 minutes into. I'm like, this isn't good. This isn't a good let's play. I'm angry, or I'm making stupid decisions, or I just or it's the complete opposite where it's like I'm not adding anything to this let's play. I'm just playing this game or whatever, and I don't have anything to say to it or anything. So yeah, there have been things where I'm like, yeah. I'll just be mid record and I'll just look at the camera and be like, I'm just gonna end this now, and I'll click stop. Um, and
hey man,
that
like
happens. It
that
happens.
happens, man. That happens. Listen, I didn't do a weekly show that produced an episode every week of a podcast for 5.5 years where I didn't have those episodes. Like famously, I have there at the KGN podcast. There is an episode where literally it is about 2.5 minutes,
Hmm.
and it's me saying there is no news because we are literally in a week between Christmas and New Year's. Like
Yeah.
nothing's happening. No new games are being played. Like this is an episode for me to tell you that we don't have a new episode this week. Enjoy your holidays. Like enjoy a holiday, your holiday seasons, but like we out. Like we're not like nobody's coming on to do anything this week. I can't get anybody on the show this week because literally we are mid holiday season right now. I
Yeah.
can't do anything. Sorry. I didn't do that show for 5.5 years without a couple of those episodes. Okay.
Yeah.
Like there are times when you know what the juice just isn't. We don't like. There's not enough juice in the jar. We can't make the recipe. It is what it is.
Hmm.
Like my bad.
Yeah.
You know.
Um,
And know what? Sometimes those episodes end up kind of being a little bit of bangers. You never know.
it can be, yeah. Well, I hope you find something to latch onto, whether that is Live Alive or just something else, or if not, I hope you continue to enjoy your little smaller experiences. In the same way, like in particular, I definitely want to get back to Escape Academy. Like I had a good time with that for the like that is a puzzle game up my alley that I'm going to spend some more time with. I'm going to hop into As Dusk Falls here before too much longer. Um, but the last one I want to talk about in the last topic for today is I did hop into In large part, this is not a admittedly a Game Pass game, or it's a Game Pass game, but the content is basically you have to buy the add-on content, and that is the Hot Wheels content for Forza Horizon 5 that I hopped into in the last week. I don't remember. It's like I record. I've at this point I've got like I'm like 3 recordings ahead of the Let's Plays. So I think the Hot Wheel one is like going live this coming week. I don't think it's gone live yet. Um, but it is the Hot Wheels expansion. Basically takes you out of Mexico, or takes you effectively above Mexico to like a cloud city, effectively like space in the clouds, with just Hot Wheels track all over the place, and you're getting Hot Wheels cars and getting to drive that. And it's more Forza Horizon 5 in new fun settings. In particular, like the Hot Wheels location is effectively like 3 islands connected by all sorts of crazy Hot Wheels track and loop de loops and magnet tracks that like flip over and do corkscrews and stuff like that. But like the 3 islands are, there's like a desert canyon biome with there's like an ice biome with a volcano also mixed amongst it, and then there's like a rainforest-esque biome, and in particular, because the main game is set in Mexico, you don't get a ton of snow in that game. So the ice area is a fun like new element to play, and then it's just like a lot of fun new races. And they really have fun playing with the Hot Wheels ness of it and doing the giant loop de loops and kind of all the Hot Wheels craziness of it. They the campaign is effectively like you go through, you start out as like a B level racer, you go through, you do all the B level things, then you upgrade into A, and then to S1, and then to S2, and then you can go for like legend rank, if you want to try and drive like X level machines or cars or anything like that. I'm already basically on the path to X, just in the week or so that I've been playing it, because it's just a fun like hop back in, do all sorts of fun new races, collect more and more cars. There's like I think 20-ish Hot Wheels cars. There's a handful of like story missions that you can do where it's basically you're going around doing races while a character just effectively reads the Wikipedia of Hot Wheels or something. It is the most, oh, this is just Hot Wheels really paid you guys a lot of money to integrate this stuff and include their story. It's such a weird product placement kind of thing that I do not remember Forza Horizon 4's Lego game having. Like there might have been some like Lego story stuff where it was like, here's the history of Lego, but this is very much like, we're going to tell you how Hot Wheels was founded and the original stuff, and then we're going to do another story mission, and it's going to tell you about the like origins of the orange track, and then we're going to do like, here's what Hot Wheels in the 80s looked like, and here's what Hot Wheels in the 90s and 2000s looked like, and here's what Hot Wheels in the 21st century has been. And it's just like, this is very weird, and I'm gonna just not pay attention to this, and I'm gonna zone out and listen to D&D podcasts or something like that.
Mhm.
But it is fun gameplay nevertheless. The tracks have basically the Hot Wheels bumpers, because you are driving above the world effectively. So if you fall off the map, you are falling, and it basically has to like respawn you somewhere. Um, uh, so that's fun in some regard, because like, okay, I can crash against the walls, I'm gonna be fine. But then in other elements, like some of the fun of Forza is just going off road, and it severely limits where you can actually go off road, to do smashing, level up stuff, or finding some of the breakables and stuff among the world. So like that's an element I'm like, some of the fun that I have in Forza is just kind of like not being beholden to the roads, and just kind of being like, all right, the fastest point from A to B is going to be driving through this desert area or something like that. And I can't just always make that immediate like jump off of the path to get to where I want to get, because there's now walls in a lot of the roads. But it's still fun. And it has made for a good, another good 20 probably plus hours of just kind of racing around, doing things, kind of checking off boxes and knocking out little challenges and stuff like that, and having a fun little time more back in one of my favorite games from last year, Forza Horizon 5. So shout out to Hot Wheels. I'll probably, be wrapping my time up with that, before too much longer, and then just kind of hanging back and waiting for the next big expansion they do. It also, because I came back to it, like it highlighted to me that they've added like new jumps and new like speed traps and new elements in even the main game that have been added kind of over the last 6 months. So that there are new things for me to do in the base game as well if I want to do it. And I've hopped in and done a little bit of them, but really the allure of this was jumping into the new area, exploring like all the fun it has to offer, and so yeah, that's it. Like it, playing through it got me really thinking of like, oh, like I don't typically have a like best ongoing game kind of category in my game of the year stuff, but it's basically going to be like this game with Final Fantasy 14 and with Fortnite are basically like the top three that I come back to with some sense of regularity these days. And if I still cared about Destiny, I'm sure Destiny would be somewhere in that conversation too. But as we've talked about many a time, my days of Destiny are done. But yeah, those are just some new Forza Horizon Hot Wheels thoughts. There should be a Let's Play for it this week, where I basically go through all of the like rookie level, basically like the opening hour ish of the expansion content, and going through all those races and driving some fun Hot Wheels cars and stuff like that. So, yeah, if you're a Forza fan, definitely recommend checking it out. Any final thoughts or anything from you, Cam? We're good to wrap up.
I think we're good to wrap up. I think that this has been an excellent show this week, and everybody would agree who listens to it. So there you go.
There you go. Perfect.
I don't know why I said it that way, but whatever. I don't
Yeah,
care.
everybody who's listening right now, of course, agrees exactly with what you just said. It is a perfect episode, and we're great. So yeah. Thank you, Cam, for joining me. Let's go around our metaphorical table with any plugs we might have. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Yeah, that D Plus show has some upcoming cool content on it, so watch out for that. It's gonna be good.
It potentially, yeah. We were talking about it. This week's episode is looking like we're going to do Deadpool because Disney Plus has now added R-rated content to the platform in the form of the Deadpool movies and Logan, so yeah, we're gonna probably look at Deadpool for this week's show. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, I had to think to myself because I'm like, we've already talked about Friday Night Dying Light way too much for me to plug it at this point. What else do we do? What else do we do?
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. In addition to the Let's Play, you follow me at Trevor J. Starkey on Twitter. The Let's Play for Hot Wheels, I believe, is going to be the Tuesday Let's Play this week. And I think Thursday is Power Wash Simulator, which I recorded like 2 weeks ago, and basically just kept bumping it because I was like, well, Stray is a new game, so I should probably throw that out there to try and like capitalize on that. And then Hot Wheels, I had a much more fun time with, and is also a new thing, so that'll be this week. But then I have Power Wash Simulator, and then I think after that, next week will be the Live Alive one, and then probably also As Dusk Falls. Yeah, check out the Let's Plays that we go live every Tuesday and Thursday over there on youtube.com/thatnerdysite, as well as our Friday Night Dying Light show that Cam does for the next couple months at least. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest content from us, including Logan finally got one of his That Bond Show like wrap up articles over his thoughts on ranking of Felix Leiter's is now up there on the site. You can go find that in our recent articles. He said originally he was going to be doing a lot more. I've not seen any of them, so I'll believe it when I see it. Kind of vibes. It is my God of War Ragnarok. Cam is basically what is actually Logan going to submit in terms of writing content for the show, because he says he's going to do stuff, and then we see whether or not it actually hits. But yeah, You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site. If you liked what you heard, once again, please rate, review, like, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Thank you again for listening. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.